Aloha kohala. It is 3 o'clock. Is it on the dot? It is. It's 3 o'clock.
On the dot.
And you're listening to KNKR LP 96.1 FM Kohala. This is going to be a lively show, Intuitive Talk Story with Eila, Allgood, and
Michál, Anna.
And I want to start by telling people thank you for the feedback that you give to us. You know, when we see you, you heard a show, you like the topic, whatever, and we listen to you. And we're gonna do our best to take what your suggestions and incorporate them into how we move through the show today.
Yeah, and in general, we are here for you, for our listeners,
Yes.
to glean and reflect with us and let it be valuable and digestible.
Ooh, I like that.
For you. So we're going to try and stay a little bit on topic today. So we were kind of creating a topic today that we're going to work with, which would be emotional safety and creating boundaries.
Yeah, and really what emotional safety means. And
Yeah, what does it mean to you?
Well, I like to start with a story. You know me.
Yeah, I
like to
love
have
stories.
Example things. And so a bunch of years ago, it's over 20 years ago, I was interacting with my dad, and my dad was always a source of emotional stuff with me. I loved him. I wanted to be like him. He was a fun, outgoing kind of person, and so I picked on his good traits, and anyway, and then I went through my own transition of divorce and coming out as a lesbian, and he didn't seem to care, except at the time, my former husband, and I, we were fortunate financially. We give him money every year. And I noticed he was always asking me about the money while I was going through this divorce, which was very traumatic because there's a lot of drama. And I said, I just didn't know what was going to happen. And then we got to the point where I knew what was going to happen. All the divorce was done. And I said, Dad, I just can't keep doing that. I just have enough money barely to live. And I have 2 kids and blah, blah, blah. And he got mad. And it was the first time I ever argued with my father, like really argued with him. And he hung up on me. And for the next 2 years, I guess the term would be ghosted. And if I called him, because we had hard lines then,
Right.
he didn't know who was calling. And he'd pick up. And I'd say, hey, how you doing? And he'd be ice cold. I never experienced my father like that, ever. Mr. Smooth, fun guy, ice cold. So I realized I just couldn't keep doing that. I was subjecting myself to that rejection all the time. This went on for about 2 years, and then his wife got sick, and she was dying. And I reached out to him because, I don't know, when somebody's dying, you kind of put this stuff aside. And for me, just make a connection. And I went to the funeral. She died, and I went to everything, and he was very pleasant and very nice. Now I'm emotionally guarded at that point, right? Because I've been burned pretty bad by this person. And he asked me if we could talk in the other room, and he said, I'm so sorry for how I've treated you these past couple of years. My dad used to do that to people. He just stopped talking to them. He just cut them off. And I didn't feel really good about the interaction I was having with my dad energetically. And he said, I was like, okay, like I'm still guarded. And then he said, I really need some money. Do you have like $20,000? And that was it. And then, so what happened is I continued to interact with him kind of out of respect, but we were like 5,000 miles away. But I never emotionally trusted him again. And that's, to me, that's about emotional safety, like boundaries, taking care of yourself. It's like if somebody shows you something enough times, we need to pay attention to that so that we're not constantly feeling wounded and playing the victim. That's the last thing I want to do, right? So anyway, that's a little story about emotional safety when you don't feel safe, and what can you do and how can you do it. And maybe you stay in relationship with a person, maybe you don't. It depends on the situation.
Well, and what I heard when you were talking too is you listening to what you felt and tuning into that and like making observations and noticing the energy that you felt even when your dad was telling you something that sounded like the thing you want to hear. Like, oh, maybe he's getting it. Maybe we're friends. We're going to be all right. We're going to be the thing. And I've experienced this feeling a lot with different people in my life.
Sure.
But this feeling like, okay, we're getting we're there. We're going to get there. And then you saw there was a motive.
Yes.
And this all ties into all the other discussions we have around energetics and courting. And I'll bring in a little bit of that, like what's underneath this emotional unsafety, right?
Yeah.
Like why are we experiencing this unsafety? But to speak to what you were saying, that you were really listening to the vibration and the feeling energetically that you felt, and you weren't buying the words. You're like, you could feel
the words sounded good, but
you could feel there was something off.
Yeah.
And then, so when you did hear the next words, you probably it was like not that shocking, at the same time a drop, and like, oh, that is what it is.
It was, oh boy. I was disappointed because I felt like he was heading in a direction. And I kind of felt like he intentionally isolated me by taking me into the other room. He could have done it. Holly was with me, and we'd been together for a while, and he could have done it with both of us if it was more genuine, because she had to live through that with me. It's not, if you have a partner, they go through whatever you're going through. And so, those are things I noticed later. Paying attention to the energy of what you're observing so that you can take care of yourself.
And then let's look at why your dad might even behave in such a manner. Because I think for me, it really helps me to understand. And as a practitioner and working with emotions and people and seeing different patterns, they're all patterns and programs. So we love every soul is worthy and divine and beautiful. And then we get to look at what are the patterns and programs that are running in the emotional wounding that's creating these patterns or emotional experiences. So to look at this one, right, we can see that you already gave us a piece of information that your dad experienced that from his own father, getting ghosted. That was the way it was handled. So he did experience conditional love himself. Yeah. And it was probably performance-based. You can see that. You've experienced it. So you kind of, when you look back and you look at all the memories you have, you saw your own threads of probably a lot of that you pulled when you were getting your own pieces around your dad.
Sure.
Right? And you saw all those places and you saw, oh yeah, he was actually not in charge. He's been like dealing with his own amazing amounts of fear and probably just feeling not nurtured. My understanding and experience of that like what you're saying, and I think this is true for a lot of men, to be honest, is that there is no nurturing. If you haven't been nurtured, or and there was this expectation to perform, and the hierarchy is really strongly pushed. Yeah. And so there's this, good, bad thing going on that it really promotes. What'd you do, boy? Or what what you do? Like, who are you making money? Your worth is connected to money a lot for men, and for everyone actually, not just men, but it can be more pronounced in that way because you're supposed to be a man, the provider, and you're the da da da. And plus, there's the lineage, and I'm supposed to take care of everyone, and all these different things that can come up. So we have that going on for the dad. Yeah. And so then when we look at what he's behaving like, we can see that he's coming from a very scared child place in himself that's just actually fearful. The little boy never got to play, so he's been ruled by some other energies that whole time since he was little. So the little boy in there is just is unsafe and is not feeling fearful and is trying to get his needs met and feels like he's got to survive.
Right, and I think, his wife just died, so I cut him some slack about, he was probably not in his best place, having just had his wife die. And it still was was what it was.
Oh
And
yeah, it's just to see it.
Yeah.
It's not. There's no justification.
Yeah.
There's just observation.
Yes.
And then we also, and this brings us to the next point. We see it and we go, this is why one behaves this way. So I can have compassion.
Yeah.
And go, oh, I have compassion for this soul. And I love and I choose to have unconditional love for this soul.
Right.
Despite
the behavior.
Despite the behavior,
Yeah.
I choose to see the soul.
Sure.
I choose to embody unconditional love, which is always a lesson, an opportunity, one I've had many to learn. I've had opportunity to learn this one a lot. It is embodying love and the holy holding space. And so in doing so, we come into more of our own love and compassion. And then the next part is, well, then you see that someone who's in actually that much trauma or fear internally, who's operating from so much hierarchy or ego, is not able to see outside of their own survival.
Right.
He can't even see that you might have an issue or you might be going through something. He's not able to it's like if I'm on the first floor, I can't see the 7th floor.
Right.
He can only see the first floor. So he's literally there just thinking about himself and about his own needs, which is, well, the service to self path is the one in the deep density. Then we get to, we get to 0. We kind of go, we get out of the, basically a sort of our own inner hell. And then we start moving on the heaven path, which is the service to others or our own inner heaven and experiencing that. So it's a choice. So then we get brought up to choice, which we now see what's happening, right?
Yeah.
So now you get to make a choice. Is
Right.
this what I want to experience, though? And you said,
Yeah. No,
No.
it was pretty clear to me that I needed to continue to keep an emotional distance from him and just to take care of myself, not out of, there was no malice.
Right.
Other people
that's
get super
important.
mad and I wasn't mad. I was just like, this person is where he is. And I had been through enough challenges those years that I wasn't going to put myself in a position where I would continue to experience that kind of emotional hurt. No, that's crazy. That would be on me. But what's the expression? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice.
shame on me.
Yeah.
Or
So
insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again,
Right.
expecting a different result.
right. So
I've been insane before.
I still, like you say, you still love the person. I loved him, and I just recognized his limitations.
Exactly. And that's what we're getting at, is that we all get to make choices about our own personal emotional safety. And it's not about another person. So Eila is not pushing her father away. Like, she's not pushing or pulling.
Right.
She's just saying, these are my choices of how I want to experience my emotional safety. And it's important to me to be able to share and feel safe with the people that I let into that space.
Right.
And
Into
so-
your circle.
Into
whatever
her
your circle
emotional
is.
safety
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
And I really honestly love to put my hands together and make a circle. I've done that many times in my life.
And there you are
I'm doing it right now to
Let
show,
me do it too.
let's do it. You might try it at home. And it's just like, you create like this circle of like, this is my space and what do I want to feel inside of it? I feel super peaceful and enlivened. If there's not peace or enlivenment happening around me, I can still embody peace and love inside myself.
Absolutely.
And this is really all the stuff we talk about, right? Is where can we take you and pull you out of your love? Staying
Right.
in 0, staying in the eye of the storm. This is another aspect of that. If you're on the side where you're holding space or you're dealing with someone who feels unsafe, your opportunity is to really surrender to the divine mother, the cosmic mother, embodying unconditional love like the mother cacao tree, embodying
Yeah.
this love of the tree, the holy tree. That's what we get to do as Christic beings, as ones who are trying to embody a pure ones of pure heart. You want to be and exude and radiate love. In order for us all to be the love we want, we have to, be the love we want.
Yeah.
So we got to just be it no matter what, even when you're getting bombarded like you were by your dad. Even then, you chose love. I love you, Dad, and this doesn't feel safe, and I just choose not to interact, and no, I choose not to give you money, but I love you, and I choose to
Right.
I will choose to walk forward in love neutrality. that's what we all want to get to on whatever situations we've got going on, is this neutral feeling. Whatever is being brought up for either person. On the other end, the person who's not getting the money, let's talk a little bit about that. What do you think's going on for him?
So I think what was going on for him was he was scared. He was alone for the first time in his life. He went from, his parents' house, married my mom, left there, lived with my cousin, married this next person, a bunch of kids in the house, always people. And my dad wasn't somebody who could navigate things by himself. He didn't cook. He didn't have friends. He didn't have hobbies. Everything was the wife. So all of a sudden he didn't have that. And he had financially, he was fine. He was much better off than I was, but he was afraid, and it was from all of that. And I got, even at the time, I got that he's just not in a good space, and I need to step back from that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that fear, and so this is if you're someone has felt that or has done that, you can see that you might be navigating that from your own childhood, and that somebody treated you poorly,
right.
And so then now it becomes about your own survival. And the way out of that is to get real grateful. First off, get into gratitude and try to find something that you go back to. This person is my daughter, and this person is my friend.
Right.
This person is someone I love. Find that connection and see that they're not your issue. The person in front of you, back to that, whatever's in front of you is not your issue.
Yeah.
It's this deeper thing, and that's somewhere you're trying to get full because someone didn't love me. And because someone didn't nurture or love me, I don't feel safe myself. So I'm in fear, and I'm navigating from fear, see? And then I'm doing fearful things. I'm trying to possess or hold on or get because out of fear or manipulate because what happens then we start to reach for stuff. Well, and we get this kind of, I don't have it. And you're taking it from me anyway. And his energy started, you owe it to me. Entitlement comes a lot with this. This is victimizer, classic victimizer programming. And the blame game, right? It's somebody else's fault. It was the daughter's fault in this moment.
No, I think actually he blamed his wife for buying a car that they couldn't afford or something.
See? Someone's fault.
It was somebody's fault. He finally took ownership of it, time later. So, but and relationships are so complex too. And
I think these are across the board, some really across the board things, though. I think a lot of men, especially from the era of your father,
he was born in the 20s.
Oh, yeah. Came from this very masculine era. That has trickled down. We still are working these programs out. A lot of the men, and I actually commend all the men out there, I'll say it now, who are doing this work and are looking at yourself and doing self-reflection because it's deep work for the men here, because we are also dealing with your lineages, the warring, the pillaging, the raping, the kind of intensity of protection and having to be a role, and that's been fed so deeply. And then these inversions of the patriarchy, which have been running the game all this 200,000 years. And that's really been feeding this pillage mentality, hierarchical mentality, versus the unity mentality of really surrender to the goddess, surrender to the mother, to the holy mother, to the tree. Because the tree of life, then the masculine energy, like the bees, the bee is there, and all the masculine energy just goes and gets things. Then they create the honey. There's one queen. That's the mother. Yeah. The mother, and then all the masculine energy is moving, and
all the little bees get everything they need to get.
Are doing and creating, and so our own internal feminine energy gets to hold our own internal masculine. So your own tree within is this nurtured feeling of ooh, it's so safe to create. Then if I'm creating from that platform of if I came here, so I come here with Eila, I'm ooh, get to juicy, come down here and just talk story and create. But if I felt let's say I was getting paid to do this, and I felt oh, I have to go down there because I need to get the money, and I got to perform because I got to get that money. Yeah. Now I'm coming from an inverted masculine part in myself, which makes my feminine energy get strangled by my own internal vine of masculine.
And it's all in you.
Nobody
did anything.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
So if we can all see and do this kind of thing, understand how your own divine energies work together, we are all being offered this cool opportunity to really come into balance, harmonic balance, and realize we're all masculine, feminine, internal energies, and we are balancing this left, right, side and coming together. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yes. And I think realizing that we all come from these different events that have happened. Maybe if you're from the United States, or maybe you're from another country, there's historic events. And what came up for me as you were talking was, in the late 30s was the Depression. And a lot of people lost a lot of things. So in addition to, you have the masculine that needs to provide. Well, during the Depression, and my grandfather was one of them, lost the job, lost the house. They were eating onion sandwiches. So there's another layer of pressure to not let that happen again.
Yeah, for sure. My grandfather was also from that era, and he worked on the railroad. He did valet, drove the cars, and he had 4 jobs, and they did the post office.
Whatever you had to do.
During that era, he was a paper boy. He was he was helping to, the family. It was a lot of mouths to feed. There was 8 kids. So they had a lot of mouths to feed. So that was a big deal. But they came from such a different era of really needing to have things. And now with these wars that have loomed too, we have all that through the timelines, this thing of war.
And also back then there was no, there was really not much help by the government. If you didn't have anything, you just didn't have anything. There wasn't, you couldn't get help for your rent or something. It wasn't available. And what I'm realizing and talking about this is my brother used to worry about money constantly. And I feel like I didn't take that on, but my brother took it on. It followed in the line.
Right.
So that's something.
On the men.
Yeah. So even though we're all masculine, feminine, in that instance, it did go from follow the masculine line.
And I would agree with that that's two-parted. We have our own internal energies, and we're also, part of that is we're each have availability to kind of rewire our DNA. Kind of, you have the key to the DNA because you're inside the vessel. This is your spaceship, your temple, and it's connected to the ancestry of your father and the ancestry of your mother. So all that information from the father's line is coming in, all that information from the mother's line is coming in. So we have to process all of that. So if you're a man, just being a man, obviously incarnate as a masculine body, it is different than being a woman. We have different primary, expressions. Yeah. And so as a man, the men are being bombarded. It is harder, I think, to be in a man's body doing inner work, because if you weren't given a framework of your mother's really nurturing love and had a lot of feminine support, I think there's a lot of men I know across the board from all sorts of ages have had the really masculine father boy, that kind of energy where you either do it or you get hit or, you're going to get beat. And, that doesn't create emotional safety, which then doesn't perpetuate any emotional safety in later relationshiping. Because now you have all of the women that are now in relationships with those men and then, have children. And then here we all are, products of these continued things.
Along, right.
And so the only way to stop this is by observing what's really happening and not blaming. And no one's blaming,
nobody's
your
blaming
man's
anybody.
bad because he's this. No, these are programs.
Yeah.
These are patterns and programs and ancestral wounds that have been handed down through the lines. They don't belong to you, me, or Joe Bob. They don't belong to any of us. They need to be composted. Yeah. Is what they need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to take our power back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If we've let it go, and forgiveness. I think forgiveness for me has really been a huge way to work through things. Is forgiving me and forgiving others. Not necessarily that I condone anything somebody did, but it's just forgiving them because they're doing the best that they can. And maybe you don't think they are today. Well, maybe they are. Maybe it doesn't look like they are, but.
And everyone's trying, and our trying is different. I mean, it's like if if you're a grad student, you don't expect your kindergarten cousin to be where you are, but they're trying where they are, right?
Right, and we all came in with different purposes at different times, with different experiences. So, what might be easy for me is hard for you. What's easy for you is hard for me. it's
We're all different.
Yeah.
And we all have different gifts. And none
Yeah.
of us think the same. And then you bring up a great point is emotional safety is more birthed out of the more you understand that. The more you understand that we're all different, that we all have our own thoughts, expressions, that we're not all the same, and that it's okay if I say something that I'm like, well, Eila, I don't really like that shirt you're wearing. And you don't have to go, oh my God, I can't believe you don't like this shirt. I can't believe you'd say that. That would be, you
that
don't
would be a little defensive.
right. We would be doing that. But
Yeah.
because you're very secure about yourself, I might like your shirt. But let's say I said
No,
that.
you could say
I could say
yeah.
that. But let's say then you wouldn't be offended. See, and that's the things we can go, oh, I love this shirt. I think it's great. I'm like,
Yeah.
I love stripes. Well, we're both wearing stripes. I'm like, I love stripes, myself. And, I don't care what you think. Or not care, but it doesn't affect me, doesn't move me out of neutral or move me out of not liking my own shirt or make me feel something bad, right? If we
Right.
have an interaction of not agreeing.
Well, that's interesting because that brings up for me, I don't really appreciate unsolicited advice or unsolicited criticism. Like, I feel like if you said to me, I need like prep.
Right.
I need you to
I
ask
wouldn't
me.
actually say that, but
No,
but yeah, it's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, I just don't respond well to somebody coming in and saying, why did you put that poster there? It just doesn't look right. Especially so many things are subjective, right?
Totally.
Like, I love the poster there. They don't like the poster there. It's my room. I didn't ask you for your opinion. So that's something that gets me like riled up, and I keep looking at that. Like, why does that bother me so much that somebody has an opinion about something? Why do I care? Like, why do I let that bother me?
So that seems like back to kind of what we're talking about, creating boundaries and emotional safety.
Yeah.
Maybe the need to have boundaries. See, that would bring up for me, well, you need to have boundaries.
Yeah.
So that's your space and nobody can tell you what to do in it. And that's just my
Yeah.
boundary and that's the way it is. I might even say on the door, don't tell me anything. I don't want to know. It's what I want. It's it's my room. It's my space. This is what I'd
Right.
like to do with it. And I
Right.
think this is really important for all of us, and back to the men and women. A lot of times, we can see these power struggles in relationships across the board, and a lot of relationships that stay because of struggles of money or children. Not everyone's living the dream and
Right.
all this. So why? Because I think we start to mesh too much into one another's energies, and these victimizer, blame games, all these things start to become real prevalent. And if we just all take self-responsibility for yourself and claim your own sovereignty, your own boundary, and your own, like, this is how I want to show up. This is how I'm going to communicate. That's what I tend to do. I have to say and I do create that circle. This is
Yeah.
what I want how I want to communicate. This is how I'd like to show up. This is what's important to me. And if this is not in alignment with what you want, then, we don't need to be here together. That's okay. Or we don't need to have this conversation. Or we don't need to discuss the topic. I can respect you. You can respect me. Great. No big deal.
And move on.
And move forward.
Yeah.
We can appreciate that we're different.
Right.
And maybe I see, actually this happens a lot. My little brother, anyway, is really good at carpentry. And, for instance, he would not do this tile job I just did the way I just did it.
Yeah, yeah.
He'd be
Yeah.
really exacting and
Yeah.
be perfect. It'd
Yeah.
be so perfect and
Yeah.
so exact. And, kind of gave me some advice. And then I went to do it, and I'm really artsy. So I ended up doing it kind of like artsy. I made designs. I didn't do a lot of tile cuts. I just got all
Made 'em
different
fit,
sizes,
yeah.
made them fit. It's like, it's so
Yeah.
not exacting, but it's fun and it looks good and I like it. And,
And it's your house
and it's
and-
my house and I want it like that. And but it was funny when I showed it to him. I knew I'm like, oh, he's gonna hate this. He's gonna totally hate it. And he's like, yeah, looks good. I'm like, oh, you totally. This would not be what you would do, is it? He's like, it would not be, but it's
Yeah.
great, and you're doing a great job. So we have this great. We're respecting that we're totally different. We would not do it the same. And it's okay.
Right.
He's like, yeah, but it's your gig. It's your place. Do whatever you want.
Well, and I think sometimes when we ask somebody for their advice, it doesn't mean we're going to take it.
Right.
Like maybe he gave you some guidance. Thank you. And now I'm going to do it
Yeah, I
however
didn't
I'm
do
going
it
to do
exactly
it.
how he
Yeah,
told me,
yeah.
no.
Maybe you took something and maybe
Yeah,
you
I
took
did.
nothing. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It's just we kind of get attached to our opinions or our, oh, well, I told you it would look good this way and you did it that way. It's like, why did you do that? You didn't listen to me. It's like, yeah, no, I did listen to you.
I just chose something
I chose something else. Yeah, nothing personal.
And that's it, like nothing personal. That is this all simmer on nothing, take nothing personal. We talk a lot about the Toltec agreements. That's the number one on there. Take nothing personal.
Take nothing personal. Yeah, just breathe that in for a minute. That's not always so easy. But
what would your day be like if you took nothing personal? If you made nothing about you? Like you just, that's what they're thinking, because that's what they're thinking from their entire reality, who they are, their upbringing, their thoughts. More back to this, can I go to curiosity?
Yeah.
That's curious. You think that? I would have never thought that.
Yeah.
That's totally different than me. That's so curious.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your interesting thoughts that I would never think myself.
Yeah,
You know?
and you can learn something that way.
Right.
When you listen to somebody else's perspective on something. Yeah, and for me, it works better when I ask for it, or when I'm asked if I want it.
Back to boundaries.
That's part of boundaries.
Back to boundaries. So we have to ask for what we want.
Yeah.
So if I don't appreciate the way I'm being communicated with, or I don't want being asked up in my room, I need to say it. Create a clear boundary. Now I've created a clear boundary. Now if someone's crossing your boundary, right, now I need to say something again. Maybe I need to bring note to, now I'm not feeling emotionally safe because I'm asking for something, it's not being met, and that doesn't feel good. And then we need to be able to have that conversation and not take that personal. Right?
And not make the other person wrong.
Because no one's wrong, and we're all just having feelings. And then you remember that it's not about whoever's having that. It's not about you. They also come from a whole life of things.
Right.
Like, I come from my whole sensitivities around masculine energies myself, because my dad was similar to yours. And not similar to yours, actually. He's not like that at all. Sorry, I didn't mean that at all. I just have my own issues.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
You have your own challenges
My own
with your
challenges
dad. Right.
That created places where I, have not felt emotionally safe in the relationship with my father over my lifetime. And he's great, and he's awesome, and I have nothing but unconditional love, and he has been very supportive in the physical realm. However, we're talking about emotional safety, which is a really specific thing, and this is also important. It's not the people you do the things with. Like, we all like soccer, or we all play basketball together, or we work together, or those people, we love the same things, and we might not be cool family type friends and enjoy and energetically focus on something and do something together. But emotional safety comes into like your personal space of like feeling like, if I tell you that, something happened to me, that you're going to be able to be safe with me, and that you're not going to turn on me, kind of thing. Like, we're not going to have
or you're not going to breach our confidence and go tell everybody about it. Yeah.
Right. You're going to have these feelings of connection and trust. And, that's earned. And once it's broken, it is difficult to reform. Because it's kind of like what you said. Once he asked you for the money, like, he could say a million things after that, but you already showed me that it was about the money. So I'm not going to actually believe you now. And it would take a lot to get me to believe you, because you've shown me too many times that it's not about it's not about the love. It's about the money.
And I also knew that he loved me in the way that he could love me.
Exactly, that's important.
I accepted that because I also knew where he came from. And I didn't know his dad, but I knew his mom. And I'm like, well, that's the best he can do.
Really important, because we're talking about what he went through. He was hurt, messed, his dad was mean and beaten. So he, in his world, he is loving you. Absolutely loves you. And if you asked him, he'd say, I love her to pieces.
Yep.
And he would never have a doubt. And of course, he loves you. And that's a really important part here, is that we have unconditional love for one another. That doesn't mean that we're not activating programs or patterns that aren't serving. And what maybe it's not about love. Love isn't really the issue. It's our behaviors and our wounding that we're all working out. We love one another, but what is love, right? Love is the ability to, we'll go into a higher frequency of ease and neutrality. The energy of love is, the essence of love would be that where we don't feel that push-pull anymore, but feel that unified feeling of harmony.
Well, and I see people use the word love more as a possession or as a way to get somebody to do something or be something. You know, well, I do love you. And there's like a but coming after that. You know?
And that's with the inverted patriarchy. It wants to possess, take, have, eat, have, control. That inversion that can play out in men and women in different ways.
Sure.
But that inversion is a possessive, and we want to have something because we perceive that it makes us whole. We perceive that it has the thing, which then just is really a power giveaway on our part. We're just giving our power away when we think that way. Because ultimately, as you know, we're here to realize there's nobody out there.
There's nobody out there. Well, let's take a nobody out there station break, and we will be back in just a couple of minutes. And if you have any questions, give us a call after the break, 808-884-5657.
Congratulations to the winners of the Hawaii Writers Guild Youth Poetry Contest. Top awards went to Eila Miyamoto with the poem To Kohala From Me, Alston Viernes with North Side, and Sol Rees for The Sound of Wind. Finalists were Dante Murray, Kaimana Nakamura, and Haumea Keohuloa. Students will be recognized at a Hawaii Writers Guild event and reading June 17th at 5:15 at the Kohala Public Library.
Aloha. This is Eila Allgood of Women's Voices. Please join me on Wednesdays between 4 and 6 p.m. on KNKRLP 96.1 FM Kohala. We never quite know what we're going to be hearing because most of my choices are intuitive, unless they come from you, my listening audience, when you call in and make a request. I look forward to playing tunes for you.
Hey, Kohala P. Love here. Just a little reminder that the Plush Lounge is now open from 7 to 10 p.m. on Friday evenings with an encore from 6 to 9 on Sunday evenings. Lifting your spirit, raising your vibration, giving you some fun music to dance to, and some thoughtful reminders about rising in consciousness and being present in your daily life. Come play with me in the lounge. I'll see you soon, right here on KNKR-LP 96.1 FM Kohala.
Won't you come to the party?
The Give and Grow Discovery School, an outdoor-based educational program for keiki ages 5 to 11, meets Fridays from 9 to 2, offering children opportunities to discover their unique gifts through nature-based practices, community service, and skill building, focusing on social and emotional learning through hands-on activities. For more information, contact Devin Longfellow at 808-895-4257. That's 808-895-4257.
Welcome back. It is now 3:39 on, I didn't say the date before. What date is it? May 15th, 2024. You're listening to KNKRLP 96.1 FM Kohala. This is Intuitive Talk Story, live and in person with Eila Allgood and
Michál Anna.
And we are talking about emotional safety. And we've been talking quite a bit about boundaries. And I brought up forgiveness, and then you brought up
Humility.
and
So
being humble.
Forgiveness and humility, I found myself in my own path to be the way home. I have to forgive whoever, even when it's gotten down to my 1%, my fault, or, 0. But you still forgive the other person, forgive and see all the things we just talked about, that everyone's operating from their own set of circumstances, and to have compassion and then forgive. And then also for ourselves, on both sides of that scenario, there's humility. In order to get out of a victimizer program, you have to forgive and go humble. We have to go humility. The only way out is to humble the self to God, to source, to your divine light, to what inspires and motivates your passion and light, what gets you going every day. That's what we humble ourselves to. It's not the person in front of you when you're like holding your tongue, like what she doesn't deserve such and such. That's often, or oh, she blah blah blah. It's not really about the person. Back to that, it's about you and your path home to unity, your path home to peace. The path to peace within is the path of humility. We have to continually humble ourselves. And sometimes it's really hard. We don't want to. We're like, no, I want what I want. No, I don't want it, but I wanted that. I wanted it. And it's like, not of my will, but divine will, that phrase. I use a lot in meditation. I move that through the chakra system a lot for years, and it really is great. So I say, hey, humble yourselves internally. That's to God. That's what we're all doing, if we so choose. And that's where freedom is.
Yeah, and I think it's important. We talk a lot about tools and, praying, however one prays, whoever one prays to. Maybe it's not a who you pray to, it's what you pray to. It's kind of giving thanks to that greater energy out there, that divine energy, and also asking for help. And, I do that so many times in a day. And also meditation. We were going to talk about meditation today, but
don't bring in too many things.
No, I know, but
these are
emotional
great tools.
safety became important, but meditation is a tool that helps us to get clear about our part in whatever, and to get to that humility, and to get to that place of feeling humble, and keeps us from making other people wrong, and, well, you said this and you did it that way, and how could you? Even if you don't say the words, it's the tone that we use, that it's just, we all can read a lot more than maybe we even think we can read in one another beyond the words.
Ooh, you bring up such a good point. How many times have you faced an energy that you're like, I'm not mad, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, but they clearly feel something.
Yeah.
And so being honest with yourself is the key. I mean, we have to be honest. If I can't even be honest with myself, then I can't get there with you. So I've got to be honest with myself. That comes back to humility, because honestly, it's hard, right? You're like, oh, I don't want to admit that I'm this or I'm doing this, but I am. And so I need to say it, own it, take self-responsibility, and then go, yeah, that's not cool what I just did. I'm sorry that I see what I've done, or I take responsibility. I'm going to choose a different pathway. I'm going to choose to know I'm supported, I'm loved, I'm seen, I'm valued, whatever I need to allow me to operate from a different platform.
Yeah, and maybe I need some time. Maybe I need some time to myself to process some things and feel good about me before I go back and interact with Dad, Like that's I think that's something a lot of people don't do. They just keep going back, and it's you're feeling hurt or wounded or sensitive, and then you just keep putting yourself with somebody who keeps triggering that. It's like, let's get some healing first by yourself, with a friend, with somebody who can help you through it, and then have some strategy about how to interact so that you don't just keep going to, I can't believe,
Exactly. So I do spiritual counseling with couples, and in that framework, what you're bringing up is we do is utilize tools. Often a safe word is great, like to have a word, chocolate or whatever, papaya. And it just means let's stop.
Yeah.
We're going to hurt each other by saying anything else. So let's stop right now and get to 0. And that does mean, like you said, getting that meditation bag out
Yeah.
and using your tools. The only way out I have found is to go within and go to God. You know, is to humble ourselves and go inside and go, okay, shoo, I let this go. Use your tools, ground, align, center, connect to your source, cut your cords, release your agreements, and be honest with yourself. What am I really feeling? Where is it really coming from? Look at it, let it go, get what you need from the peace. You know, I am loved. Wait, that's not true about my father, or he doesn't love me. No, he loves me, or whatever you need. In the moment, get that, give it to yourself, fill up, and then move back into 0, and then try to choose back to choice. We have to make choices. If we don't choose it, we will be run by our program, by our wound, by our
Or
fear.
let other people run us. So that's part of.
Yeah, either one, but
Yeah.
either way, either if someone's running the thing and they're, you know, there's 2 sides here, the father and the daughter side in this particular story we've utilized, but this goes to every relationship. They all have these dynamics, or can have these dynamics of needing. We all need to find emotional safety within our dynamics, is better said.
Yeah. Versus just isolating ourselves from the world. And, you know, well, then you don't need, if you don't interact with anyone on a deeper level, you don't get to practice these things. So I think it's valuable for us to do that. And, you know, when you were talking, one of the things that came up for me was to let go of the story. Because we all, you know, say you have an incident like I had with Dad, and I could have just kept playing that like week after week after week. That just makes him look worse and worse and wrong, and I'm the victim. And so it's to let go of the story so that you can heal. I think it's a lot easier to heal once you've let go of the story. Recognize your emotions, recognize what do I need right now? Not from Dad. What do I need? What do I need to do to help me right now so that I can feel good about me?
Right. And then it was, can you let go of the story? Like if there's 2 people involved, can you both let go of the story enough to have a new story today, tomorrow, like together? Or do we need to have space and really respect and honor and let go and heal, and then try to have a new story? It often can be difficult for people like you weren't able, your father, and you just, you know, that was a boundary. It wasn't a story you like woke up the next day and had breakfast, you know, kind of thing. And for a lot of people, it's that. You're going to wake up
You're
tomorrow.
in the same house
Yeah,
with
you're in
that
the
person.
same house. You're going to have breakfast tomorrow. So how's that going to go? And if that story is not going well, how can we create some space so we're not bombarding each other, so we can heal and let go of the old stories, so we can actually meet at the breakfast table or whatever and find peace? And then, you know, that kind of brings me to a real wild concept,
What's that?
which is just, I don't know, from all my journeying, all my experiences, and through this, you know, half a century almost here. So far, I haven't had a lot of really great role models on the whole, you know, man, woman in a house with the kid thing.
Yeah.
That picture.
Yeah.
Although I know there's a lot of you out there doing that, and I praise you, and you're amazing and great. And those of you who are making it work and are really finding the surrender to the land, to the mother, to the holy tree, it is it. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for connecting in that space.
Yeah, and thank you for everybody who's out there doing their best.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but I'm saying something. Don't make it about everybody right now. I'm saying something specific
All right,
to these
Michal.
people.
Okay.
To those people.
I wanted to include everybody.
I know you
I
do.
can't help
I know
myself.
you
But go
do.
ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
To those people that are doing that specifically, because it's a really big task, honestly, to really move into that holy union of that balanced cacao tree and vanilla bean, you know, that vine that moves in harmonious balance in any shape, way, or form within 2 people is really quite beautiful. And I think with self-responsibility, victimizer, these programs that have been alive for so long have had a lot of us motivating or living and simmering in these other places of not feeling safe and this or that, and playing out these different things. And I think self-responsibility is our number one thing. And if it was possible, I think everyone could have their own little house. You know, like everyone should like live on villages. It's village. You all live in your own space. You're responsible for your own, because that's your room. You want that more than anyone. You're like, I need my own room, but nobody can tell me what to do. Everybody needs that. Everybody needs their own room where they can nobody can tell them what to do. They're in charge. They get to do it. You're taking charge of your own stuff, what you want to do with your time. Everything is your own stuff. And then you get to choose when you go hang out. Because what most couples I hear, they want to spend this, they end up fighting about the chores or the like day-to-day functioning. Well, what if you weren't doing chores together? What if you had your own space and you had your own space and you both took care of your own chores? Now you just meet up for the thing you want to do together, which is family day, and go to the beach.
Right.
Maybe we have a beautiful dinner, and then we just go back to our little hollies, you know, and tonight maybe we sleep together, tonight maybe we don't.
Right.
You know, and you have more freedom to choose. If people had more freedom to choose, then there could be more, there's just more sovereignty, your self-responsibility, and now no one is feeling victimized. It's not my gig, man. That's your gig. And everyone gets to take responsibility. We ultimately can't blame each other as much, and we get to choose a more empowered and co-creative community of people where we come together when we really want to, and we're there present.
Well, and I think
everyone needs a day off where they just maybe chill in your own little room and you don't do anything and you don't want to talk to anyone, right? There's that too.
And nobody telling you what to do or not what to do, or how come you're still in your room, or that, to me, that goes to something that we have so much in our society, and it connects to programming, which are roles, you know? Yeah. So two people get together, whether it's two women, two men, man and woman, there's roles. People start to fall into roles. And to me, a role is a rule. It means, oh, well, if I'm that, you know, like the good daughter or the good son, they do these things. The responsible parent, they do these things. And it's confining.
Yeah, and it can be, and this kind of brings in this postcard creation, because a lot of us, a lot of people look around in your life, you know, how many times do you postcard create? Or you call somebody, we're married, like I've heard this one before in couples. You know, now that you're married, you would say, well, you want your husband, you'd think your husband would do such and such.
Yes.
Well, you'd want, she's my wife, so you'd expect that she would be blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So now that you've called her this label, or now that he has a label, they're expected to perform this task because the label's been inserted. Well, that doesn't make any sense. What happened to like coming together because you like there was some spark of seeing one another and wanting to commune,
and you want to share
about
life together,
and
now it's about the trash,
right? The countertop, and you know who took the kid to school. You know, like, so schedules are also good. Organization helps us release some of those things too in family situations. You know, we always had in my house growing up, we had a schedule on the refrigerator for all the dinners and who did the cleanup, every job.
Wow.
Yeah, and each of our I had a step family for a while, and there was 4 kids.
Yeah.
So we all had jobs, and it was on the fridge, and they did my stepdad and mom did shopping in the beginning of the week for the whole week. There was a menu.
Yeah, yeah.
With all the jobs.
Yeah.
And you knew what you had to do. And in a way, I
very
love
organized.
it.
And it's kind of liberating.
It's liberating, especially if you have land, you have jobs, like who's doing the trash, who's doing the mowing, it's on just go to the job board, and everyone's got a thing there, and you got your name next to the job,
and you could negotiate for next month which job you were going to get.
You could change jobs, but then I'm not going, Eila, are you mowing? Or Eila, are you going to mow? You already know it's your job. It's on the list. You'll get to it when you get to it because you're responsible for it.
Right.
It's on your list. I'm going to get to my stuff when I want, because it's on my list.
Right.
So we alleviate a lot of this nitpicking when we create systems, and we create more sovereignty and self-responsibility.
Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of it that way. We had nothing like that in my life growing up, so it was more nitpicking.
Right. Thanks, Mama.
No, that's a good thing. Yeah. So we still have about 7 minutes. Yeah.
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
for the 7 centers of your chakras. As you,
Yeah.
well, there's more than that, but you were talking about meditation
Yeah.
and about that tool, and I just want to bring that back in there. And in prep for next time we come together, we're
Yeah.
going to dive more into that. But how important it is, as I said, I think, to utilize just silence or going into the center as your way out. In general, breath. I was talking with a client yesterday, about breathing and how to breathe, because we're like, oh, I'll just breathe. People don't breathe very deeply. So another tool, real easy one. You don't have to practice much. I mean, you don't have to understand much. It's just breathe deeply by really breathing in, filling up your belly. Then you fill up your chest. Keep breathing all the way up past where you think you can breathe, almost like you're trying to breathe into the center of your head. Well, and then push it down. Do not let it skip. So you're now pushing back down through the throat. So I'm gonna, instead of going, huh, if you just go, huh, it skips from your throat to your belly. But if I breathe it all the way in, and then you push it down, you might even hear this. So you want to push it down through the ventricles. Imagine your breath's actually going down through the lungs, through the ventricles, pushing all the way down past the sternum and getting all the way back down to that belly, so that it's this free pathway, because we often skip this mid area, and a lot of anger, grief, and constriction in our heart comes into this part of our lungs. So we want to breathe, and we're pushing that breath. You're literally cleansing out the emotional trauma. You can be like, I just breathe that out. Like if let's say I'm getting frustrated, right? Let me take a deep breath and just, that's not what I want to do. I don't want to do that. I breathe that out of my body. Whew, that's not how I want to show up. I am peaceful. I am loving. I am light. Whatever you need, breathe it through the body. You're breathing the energy of this new embodiment. This is my space. This is my energy. I'm claiming it here and now. Because anytime you start to move into another framework, you immediately want to claim it. Because it's like you start getting pulled into the poppy field, like the Wizard of Oz. You're starting to fall asleep. And you're like, no, I'm not asleep. I'm not asleep. I am the light. I claim myself. It's really kind of like that. This world wants you to fall asleep in the poppy fields. So stay awake. Stay awake and claim yourself, claim your space, claim your energy. Choose. Make a choice. Do not be run by the programming. You're in charge. So claim authority of this incredible temple that we get to be within. I am that I am, connected to the God of my heart, connected to Source, however you like to speak that. I am a Christic being, however you want to speak into your heart, the love that you are. I am part to thee in creating more emotional safety. May we all use our tools. Remember, nobody is out there. Self-sovereignty, self-responsibility, forgiveness, humility.
Yeah, and be gentle with yourself. This is a process, and be gentle with one another. We're all learning. We're all learning at our own rate, our own pace. And you'll forget. It's also, I think it's helpful to have somebody that it can be like a reminder buddy, like somebody that you
accountability.
Somebody you can go to and say, I'm just having such a hard time and I can't think right now. And they say, all right, well, let's take a few breaths together. Like somebody that you can go to that maybe, and also we use our phones for everything these days. Have notes where you just have some reminders, take breaths, close your eyes, these different tools that we're talking about.
Well, so like I do with clients, I send them JPEGs that have all these little cool, phrases, and I think I maybe even sent you some that are like agreement, cutting cords. If I haven't, I will. Cutting cords and agreements and little that you can keep on your phone. So if you keep these on your phone and places that you use or on your wall, post stuff, then you'll be able to access it quickly and use the language. Because sometimes until you get the language going, you're not sure what to say. You think, how do I claim my space?
I don't know how to say that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So you
Finding
have something
language.
written down that you can go to, especially if you're flustered. It's really hard to remember.
And often I
certain
do
things.
check-ins with clients like you're
Yeah.
speaking of. It's very important. I do a lot of session work where it's weekly. We're going to look at the week and what's happened, and we are pulling and away programming just like that, because it
Yeah.
is a reflective process. It's not overnight. All these things are about self-reflection and putting them into practice every day. It's not a one-time gig. This is our life. It's how we live. It's how we breathe. We're just giving thanks and waking up. And if another cool, easy trick out there for anyone experiencing trauma is just make your intention to just have a normal, not a normal, but a nice, easygoing day, whether I'm sweeping the floor, making food, going to work, no ups, no downs, just a nice day. And I'm grateful for this day, grateful to eat, sleep, have a shower, whatever it is, go to sleep, use your tools, and feel good. Just finding peace in that,
The simple. Yeah.
is very much where our freedom is.
Thank you, Michál, for a beautiful day today. Thank you out there for listening and sharing your feedback and supporting KNKR. And I'll be traveling to New York, so it's going to be probably mid-June till we get together again.